I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to the Unidentified Celebrity Review. It's going to be an incredible show. You're not going to want to miss today's guest. But first, I want to relay to you an encouraging, true story I recently heard. There's a narrow and treacherous stretch of water off the South Island of New Zealand, known as French Pass. During the end of the 1800s, ships had begun to avoid the area due to the unpredictable tides and the propensity to run ashore. That is, until a non-human intelligence seemed to sense the desire for safe passage and began to reveal itself to the sailors. The 13-foot-long, gray, mostly cylindrical entity would emerge out of the ocean in front of the ship, seemingly beckoning for the captain to follow. And follow they did. In what must have been an unspoken but tangible bond of trust, the captain steered the ship towards the gray figure ahead. And it worked. The ship cleared French Pass safely and without incident. The sailors dubbed this aquatic shepherd Polaris Jack. And for the next 24 years, Polaris Jack would lead ship captains through this perilous pass. And while this species-transcending relationship remains mysterious, Polaris Jack isn't quite as mysterious as I'm making him out to be. By nearly unanimous reports, Jack was a dolphin. A very empathetic and helpful dolphin. And while I may have been intentionally misleading by referring to him as a non-human intelligence, that is what dolphins are. And his story gives me hope that other creatures here on Earth view us with empathy. Of course, it's dangerous to assume anything about non-terrestrial intelligences, but there's hope that empathy is an emergent trait of evolution. Perhaps whatever is behind UAPs is showing us what is possible, trying to help guide us through the perilous path of technology. Some may argue that the path they provoke is perilous itself. Luckily, we have both our guides here, healthy today. Their experience in these waters are invaluable. So let's hear it for your hosts of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Luis Jimenez and Michael Mataluni.
Hey
guys.
How you feeling, Michael?
I feel amazing, you guys. Not gonna lie, it's it was a challenge, and it was great being here on Friday. But I was still fatigued. But today is like a new day.
New Michael. New Michael.
Well, depends on whether or not I'm if I'm
defeated the evil Michael.
That's the thing. We don't know.
Oh,
I'm feeling good about it, but I don't want to make any assumptions that I do not have complete knowledge of.
You are wearing the glasses today, so
that's true. That's true.
I guess that's evil Michael. I don't know. I've lost track. I've lost track at this point.
We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take what we can get. Rather, how was your weekend?
It was good. Nice and relaxing. Wish it was a little longer, but what can you do?
Don't we all? Okay, so hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. That is Michael Mataluni, and over there is Rather Be Squidding, our co-host for this evening. Before we get started, of course, I want to say thank you to the sponsors. Sponsors, technically, if we're talking about the Big Phone Home 2, which we will. BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995, and also Nito Creative, which helped design and facilitate the Big Phone Home 2 website, which if you haven't checked it out, please do so. We've got links in the description below. You can sign the petition. It takes you seconds to sign our UAP petition. We've got email templates. We've got calling bullet points. So when you call in, and we've also got templates for Twitter. So go check it out. It's a really great way to get in touch with your local and state representatives on the UAP topic. Of course, all of the music that you hear on the show is brought to you by DOS Tapes. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. And what else am I missing? Oh yeah, of course, like, subscribe, share. And we're a podcast now. iTunes, Spotify, check us out. Usually the show pops up about an hour or two after it goes live. So is there anything else I'm missing, Michael?
I'm excited. We got a killer roster for this show today. You sent it to me this morning because I didn't realize who we had coming on today. And when you sent it to me, I was like,
whoa.
Whoa.
Dude,
yeah. So it's
on us fast, man. Like there's so much going behind the scenes. It just like these shows are coming up fast and they're it's hard to plan for a 3-day, 8-hour, 9-hour live stream event and also plan for regular shows. But that's what we're doing here. And thank you guys for the super chats. They help us get through those long weekends. Every dollar you spend here, again, we're a public access channel. We're supported by viewers like you. So, of course, thank you, Matthew Riot. We've also got a pretty killer question that somebody left in the super chat, $25 super chat
earlier today.
It was the first thing, like 6 hours ago. They left the super chat, and then we've got Matthew Riot here with a $4.99 donation. Says, has Squid ever seen his doppelganger, David England? 90s Dave England, not current.
I have not. No, but I'll look him up.
Dave England, is that the guy who plays Freddy Krueger?
Okay, I don't know. Maybe is he your illegitimate son of your future self? Maybe.
This is going deep. Yeah.
The silence says it all. Rather, the silence says it all. Okay, so we've got everyone backstage ready to go except for one. Should we delay a little bit? Should we bring our guests on?
I mean, I'm excited for our guests, man.
On, right?
Yeah. All right, I'm really excited.
Let's start with our staple, huh?
Yeah, you want to start with our staple? To welcome the renowned Jazz Shaw. He's the editor and reporter of Salem Media and The Debrief, U.S. Navy veteran, follower of the strange and the unusual, the Dolphin Emperor, Jazz Shaw.
Hey, Jazz. How you doing?
Good evening.
Good to see you, brother.
Check out his cool shirt.
That is smoking hot.
Represent, you know,
I love it. So. Dude, it looks good, man. That's the first time I've seen it live in action, so it looks good on you, Jazz.
Well, there's a few of them around here now, plus a couple of coffee mugs. You know, so it's.
Well, we figured we're having Mark Sims and Tyler and Danny Sheehan. Who better else to bring on to help ask some good questions other than Jazz Shaw? You know, he's sort of. He was the first journalist to really help push the channel and the show. So I'm happy.
Journalist in chief.
Exactly. And then we've got John Russell with a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, man. Do appreciate the support. All right, Michael, who's next?
We've got co-founder of New Paradigm Institute, spiritual scientist and Harvard Business School alumni. From Eastern Michigan University in 1986 with a degree in computer-aided design. While working for Sun Microsystem, he established himself as an expert in 3D computer graphics with an emphasis on networking and computer security. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mark Sims. Welcome, Mark.
Hi. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Louis, and thank you, all of the team there. I'm so honored to be here. This is quite an honor for me, and I'm happy to be here and share the good news about what we've been up to. Danny and I with the New Paradigm Institute in our recent inaugural event that we just finished yesterday, which was the Making Contact Convergence event that took place on the first of its kind virtual 3D campus. And so I'm going to talk about that and share with your viewers more details about what we're doing there and what we're hoping to do, growing a community of people that are interested in this topic that you speak so often about, and that's so important in our world. And that is about the reality that extraterrestrials are here and understanding our relationship with them and our rich history and intimate relationship with them. So that's what we're here to do.
Well, it's great to have you, Mark.
It's going to be a fun day.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we can't forget the co-founder of Contact Tour, a military veteran and audio engineer, also the man behind the scenes at this year's Making Contact Conference, Tyler Zahradnik. Welcome, Tyler.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be back. It's good.
It's been a while.
Yeah, man. It's been since the last Big Phone Home.
Yeah.
And I've been meaning to get you back on. It's shame on me.
Not at all.
I unfortunately, and you can verify this with everyone else on the team. I'm terrible at scheduling and making things happen.
You're very good at making things happen. Very good at making things happen.
Yeah,
scheduling.
Yeah.
That's where we all lend our support. That's how we support each other.
Sheets and I don't get along.
I'm still using a whiteboard. I'm still out here using a whiteboard at my desk.
I've got a calendar on my desk that I write things into. So it's tough sometimes when I'm just looking at a paper calendar. But anyway, enough about me. John Russell with a $10 donation. And super chat statements. Our question asking, are we doing shots tonight? Usually Jazz is the man doing shots around here, so I'm not going to put any pressure on him, but usually has a stipulation for doing shots. Am I right?
$50 super chat.
If it's a good super chat, my wife has already chimed in and said that, yeah, she'll come over and deliver shots. We got some premium booze. I got some new glasses in today from our local. We used to have clear glasses. They sent me some free sampler black glasses for Jack Daniels, but we got some other high-end stuff. So anybody who wants to put in a nice fat super chat for the team and get the Big Phone Home going, just go ahead and say, Jazz, do a shot. Absolutely, I'll do it.
He's such a team player.
He is. He really is. Okay, so of course we're waiting for Danny Sheehan. Danny likes to come to the party late, so let's get this conversation started. So last time you were here, Tyler, you blew me away with how articulate you were, right? And I think we had a point of the conversation where you and I were just like, I wouldn't say not seeing eye to eye, but I was just like, I can't take this to my congressman, right? Like, how am I supposed to explain this? It's not that I don't believe it. It's just, how do I take this paradigm and lay it on the table of a congressman? But before we get to that, let's talk about what happened this weekend. I want to hear, was it a success? Did you guys sort of hit all of the goals that you set out before the weekend came to fruition? What were those goals? I mean, would you like to start on that, or Mark, would you like to start?
Yeah, I could talk about that. So we just finished yesterday a 5-day inaugural event, the Making Contact Convergence, and people can learn more about what we did there on the makingcontact.com website. So that's makingcontact.com. We still have our schedule and all of our speakers that presented. It was an amazing, first of its kind event that took place on a virtual 3D platform. And we also had Zoom as an option for people to watch and participate. But of course, Zoom isn't nearly as interactive as having an avatar, and what's very similar to a gaming experience like Second Life. So it's a very, people made all sorts of comments about it. It's like being there, where you can have talks with other attendees and private chats or conversations, meet some of the speakers virtually. After every speaker, when the speakers were available, most of the time they would go to an area on the campus where they could hold court and answer personal questions with people and continue discussing the subject that they were presenting on. And it just went really well. I was kind of holding my breath because we were doing two things at once. We were building the virtual platform and getting it prepared. And the other thing we were doing was getting our lineup and our speakers ready, and we had to train them on how to configure their avatars and how to interact in the virtual environment. So there was a lot of behind the scenes work that had to go into this. And it was just a monumental success, absolutely. And we're going to be continuing to support this campus. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're making it available to other organizations and events. There's an upcoming event in the UK called Bringers of Light that I'm actually speaking at, along with Mary Rodwell, Costa Macris, and other people, and Ray Hernandez, for instance. And they had to cancel because of COVID there. It was a live event. I was planning on flying to the UK. They canceled a couple of weeks ago, and then I offered to make our campus available for free to all their ticket holders. And so we're going to be doing that. Just it starts August 30th. So next week we will be doing
that's awesome.
that. Yeah.
Well, I could definitely sympathize with you organizing an event. I could not imagine adding a virtual element to it. Like, that just seems mind-boggling to me. But I do see that we have Mr. Danny Sheehan, who just popped in backstage. Michael, would you like to introduce the man?
I'd love to. Danny Sheehan is a constitutional attorney, public interest lawyer, public speaker, political activist, and educator. Over the last 45 years, he's participated in numerous legal cases of public interest, including the Pentagon Papers case, which we have referenced here in relationship to Danny Sheehan many times on the show, the Watergate break-in case, the Silkwood case, the Greensboro massacre case, and the La Pensa bombing case. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, Danny Sheehan.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing your time.
I didn't hear what you said, Tyler. It broke up.
Oh, you know what? I think there's an echo on your end there. Danny, do you have headphones?
I don't have the headphones on.
Do you have any? Yeah, if you can, that would be great. Yeah.
Sure. Let me get in there just a second.
All right, let's take Danny out for a second while he grabs some headphones. Okay.
I had a question for Mark. So, I'm just gonna address the elephant in the room immediately. A lot of folks, reached out and said, "Hey, why are you charging people for this event? How do you justify the price point?" And I just love to know, like, what your goals were, what was the purpose of that, and what are you trying to build? Obviously, you got big goals, so there's a reason for it. I know.
Yeah, there's a good reason for it. Well, you can imagine we've spent a lot of money on building this platform. And for our initial event, we were concerned that since we haven't really tested the platform in a production environment, and our staff is still learning itself on how to, provide support. We had a lot of volunteers that offered help to onboard people, to train them how to customize the avatar and how to use the commands to move around. We didn't want to overwhelm the platform and our volunteers and our paid staff. We had people paying who I've paid to be there. And we were worried if we opened it up for anyone for free, that we could have had thousands of people and overwhelm our ability to provide a good experience for people. So by having a fee associated with it, we limit it, then we could know exactly how many people we anticipated and plan for that many people. So because, if anybody knows from the gaming environment, you have a server dedicated for supporting a multiplayer environment. You get to a point where that server is overwhelmed. It doesn't have the CPU power to add, another user. It really will bog down. And so we've been studying those analytics and statistics. And so we know how many servers we need to support, let's say 2,000 people. And that's what we built for. And that's why we limited it to 2,000 ticket holders, was because that's all this initial launch and our platform could support. But as we gain experience in our own staff, who are full-time staff members and volunteers, are coming up to speed and getting better at addressing some of the common technical problems, we'll be able to charge less and maybe have some free events. And we're already starting to talk about that. We really did well. I was extremely pleased on how everyone performed and how the platform performed as well. So, this was one of the reasons. And the final thing I'll say about it is, we really worked hard to make this a dynamite event. This lineup, you could argue is one of the top lineups of its kind. We had Lou Elizondo, we had Ralph Blumenthal, the New York Times journalist that broke the story back in 2017 about the Navy videos that Lou was able to get released. We had Eric Weinstein. I mean, this guy is a world-class scientist and physicist and Harvard mathematician. And, he's never spoken publicly on his personal views on UFOs. And in fact, he was a real cynic and skeptic of this being a real phenomenon. And because of his friendship with Danny was able to recruit him and join us. And his mind is opening, and he's very curious and realizes that with, for instance, this Pentagon report that just came out, that, when he read it, he says, there's no doubt that this is a real phenomenon and that the government has been keeping this a secret. And he's now, concerned and wants to investigate this further. So this is opening, this event was a watershed moment, I believe, in our history in terms of taking this discussion, which has traditionally been about trying to present data proving that they even exist at all. Now we know they exist. What's the next question? What's the next level of dialogue and discussion that needs to happen? Okay, they're real. How do we reach out to them? What would we say? These are the discussions that these, incredibly smart and talented and interested people were discussing.
Well, could you tell us what are we gonna say? What's the answer to that question?
Well, it's a process, and
right.
We've opened that process up, and we've approached these people and invited them to join the new Paradigm Institute, whose charter and mission is addressing how do we go about preparing our human family for the theological and the philosophical and political and cultural questions and issues and challenges that we will be facing when our human family very quickly wakes up to the fact that we're not alone. And not only are we not alone, but they're here and they have been here. People are going to have questions. They're going to freak out. And we feel we have a moral obligation, those of us in the know, and have some idea about what, is about to take place. And possibly have been in communication like I have. I claim, and I present my story. Here I am, a Harvard alumni, businessman. I've started 3 different companies. I'm independently wealthy through my business success. And now I've dedicated my life to this cause. And I'm co-founder with the new Paradigm Institute to help prepare the human family for this, tremendous shock of realizing that they are here and that we're about to make contact on a massive global scale. And how do we prepare ourselves for this? What would we ask of them? Should we trust them? All these natural questions are going to come up.
Tyler, did you want to add anything to that, and then we can bring in Danny and get his thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, of course. Well, Mark hit the nail on the head with having to create and establish a initiative, a citizens diplomacy effort that's coming from the civilian sector that's going to approach and tackle this issue head on. Because Lou and I, we were chatting before the stream went live, and you were saying the metaphor that we're sitting puppies waiting for breadcrumbs from the hierarchical power structures of government to disseminate this information and intel into the public sector. And for me personally, having been in the military and serving and being a service member, I'm no longer going to comply and wait for my higher ups to belittle and to patronize not only service members and the civilian sector and our public, but the human species as a whole. Like, who is anybody to withhold information, and who are you to say what the general perception and consensus should be around this truth? So we formed Contact Tour, which is the continuance of new technologies and cosmic telecommunications. And based on the work of Mark Sims and Daniel Sheehan and all of the pathfinders and pioneers in the space for decades before us, we're taking that initiative to heart, and we're going out and establishing bilateral diplomatic contact with these extraterrestrial intelligence, whether they're coming from an off-world physical star system or a planet, whether if they're here in some other concurrent parallel timeline in a different dimension, we don't know, but our mission is to find out. And every time we've gone out and we've initiated these prototype protocols, and we're constantly refining them, we're constantly renewing them, and we're testing different modalities that are more efficient, we're having contact experiences. And this is not science fiction, it's science fact. What we're trying to do is integrate and present to our community of nearly 40,000 people that we are on the precipice and the horizon of a new paradigm of science where consciousness is going to be at the forefront of it. That's how all of this works. That's how all scientific minds needs to start addressing this issue of unidentified aerial phenomena, that it all comes down to essence of consciousness. Because if we're going to play with the extraterrestrial hypothesis and think, okay, we're being visited by highly advanced civilizations that are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years more advanced than us, I think it's safe to say that their communication systems, their propulsion systems, and all of their technology is directly interfacing with thought. So what's the best way to communicate with them through thought? It's going to be through different meditation modalities. So through the new Paradigm Institute, through the Making Contact Campus, and through Contact Tour, we formed this trifecta of what's going to be a global and cosmic community of what's going to give our human family the resources and information they need to integrate and process this new reality, that we're not alone. We've never been alone. They're actively observing us. And it appears with the very persuasive and compelling data that's available through the Defense Department that they're observing our nuclear capabilities. 80 to 88% of all UFO sightings or UAP sightings that occur, and this is a MUFON statistic, happen around nuclear missile silos. They happen around nuclear bases. They happen around places of mass environmental degradation. It's not a coincidence anymore. This is no longer something you can just throw off to the side. We have to address this as human beings and take responsibility for our planet. And I love the initiative that Lou and Michael started with the Big Phone Home, how we're encouraging the public to reach out to their leaders and say, listen, the channels of government that you think would be in the know about this entire issue are not in the need to know. They're not read into these special access projects. They don't even know where half of these projects are being operated from. They have no awareness of this. And that's completely engineered from the top down, from deep within the intelligence sector. So what we need to do now as a species is we need to bypass all of these old, outdated, globalist, industrialist power structures that are trying to maintain their authoritarian and totalitarian technocratic dictatorship over our planet. And we need to go out and directly make contact with these civilizations. And the time is now. And that's the one thing I said last time, Lou, during the Big Phone Home, and that's why I got so passionate about it. We don't have 10, 20, 30 years anymore to start taking action about this. This should have been happening for the last 75 years.
Right.
That's what we're doing right now. And even just this past weekend, our team went out to Sequoia National Park and we made direct contact with non-human intelligences using protocols that include sound, light, and consciousness, or what Lou Elizondo will call cognitive human interfacing rather than CE5. So that's our mission and that's what we're up to.
Okay. Danny, I'm going to bring you in just because he kind of touched on the political aspect of this thing and sort of bypassing the old structure of things. So is there anything you'd like to add to that? And how do you feel the weekend went, in your opinion?
Well, I've spent 50 years, since graduating from Harvard Law School, trying to dig into the national security state infrastructure to get them to stop lying and dissembling and mounting wars predicated upon blatant lies told to the American people. And here they are now with the most important event in the entire history of human civilization. And they're keeping it secret. And they're sitting on it. They're sharing information with these major military industrial corporations, and trying to back engineer the technology so they can monopolize it and make more money for their shareholders, while the rest of the world is burning down around our ears. We've got massive global climate change taking place. They're sitting on top of a technology that could conceivably substitute for oil and coal and natural gas. So we could stop burning carbon. We could go to zero carbon overnight and just stop doing this. But no, they want to hold on to it because they're all in the pocket of these major corporations. They've seized control of our government structures, and through that, they've become the directors of the secret national security state, and they're holding back this information. They're not only doing that, but they're attacking our citizens who are trying to get information out about this. They're attacking people in high-level military positions. They're trying to get information about this. This is a treason. This is an aggressive group of people that are engaged in treason, not only against the government of the United States, but against our entire planet and our entire human family. So,
Danny, when you say attacking, do you mean like things like erasing emails or?
Well, I'm talking about destroying their entire life. They're destroying their reputations. They're sending out false information about them. They're trying to set them up to pretend that they're engaging in child pornography on their computers. They're trying to destroy the reputations of anybody who is trying to get this information out of the hands of these kind of major military industrial corporations. There's been clearly Truman decided that right after Roswell, when we recovered that craft, they decided that they're not going to allow this to be made available to the Congress of the United States, our elected representatives. They're not going to make it available to people in general. They're going to provide it to these major military corporations. They're engaged in producing jet planes and fighter planes and a major military hardware for them. They view the whole thing as a potential access to some sort of military technology and technology that these corporations can spin into private profits for their stockholders. This is an opportunity for our people to come to see what this death grip is that this group has on our planet. They're killing our planet. They're destroying the entire ecology system of our planet. And while they're sitting on this technology, so that what I'm saying is that not only can we not trust these people to give us the information, we've got to get rid of these people. We've got to eliminate these people. We've got to, probably the safest way to do is to atrophy them, is to go around them, to actually establish direct communication. And they're going to try to say, oh, you people aren't talented enough. You don't know how to really negotiate with these people. We're the ones that know how to negotiate. Yeah, how are you doing on that? How you doing in Afghanistan? How well did you pull off invading and occupying the Middle Eastern oil fields? How did that go? And here they are insisting upon being the only people who are capable and responsible for dealing with the whole extraterrestrial civilization. We've got to rise up as a people to set up our own structures, our own organizations, our own ability to reach out to these people, these other beings, and figure out how we can establish a mutually satisfactory, amicable, and mutually respectful relationship with them. Not try to capture them and hold them captive and try to extract information out of them as to how to make a weapon system out of what they
wait, so you don't want to waterboard the aliens?
Yeah, right. No, so here I am as attorney for Lou Elizondo. I was the attorney for the Disclosure Project back in 2001. I've been the legal counsel for the citizens' hearings. That I'm as a lawyer, I'm trying to evaluate what the legal protocols need to be for us to be able to establish this kind of communication and conduct with them, and realizing that we have enemies here inside our own human family. They're enemies of the people, and that the people have got to understand this. They're destroying our planet all in favor of their own private profit. So, I don't want to go to war with them. We don't want to have to, go out and have them all arrested and put them in jail or anything like that. But we've got to atrophy them. We've got to go around them, and we've got to establish a people's coalition who can get this information and process it and share it with our people. But at the same time, we have a major responsibility to do this in a responsible and careful way. so that our people don't freak out and start jumping out of windows, over the fact that not only are we no longer in the physical center of the universe, which we've known since Copernicus, but we're not at the apex of all sentient life in the universe. That we have to try to figure out where our place is, but we need to understand that we merit respect, respect for what it is we've been able to accomplish, but they're looking at us and saying, look, here's a population of almost 8 billion people on the planet, and they are being snookered by 1/100th of 1% of the people on the planet, who are basically killing them all, and starving 10 million people a year, depriving people of medical information that's been available for 100 years and allowing them to die of diseases we've known the cure for. Why? For their major private profit. That's what they're doing. Now, an extraterrestrial civilization looks at us like that and said, does this species, and are they entitled, to having equal treatment in a galactic group of communities when they're so stupid they can't even get control of their own planet from like 1/100% of 1% of the people? We've got to do something to merit their respect. And it requires cleaning up our own program at home. We've got to get control of our own planet. We've got to get control of our own resources. We've got to get these people out of business. And we've got to eliminate the private shareholder stock corporation. It didn't even exist until 1872. It's a business vehicle that was designed by the robber barons, to figure out how they could establish monopoly control over the shipping, over the railroads, over the agribusiness companies, or the agriculture, and that's what they've done, and they've done it right straight in front of our own face, and our people stand around shifting from one foot to another, saying, "Oh my, what can we do about this?" Well, I'm saying we know what to do about this. We have to set up a social democracy of our people. We've got to establish a Green New Deal. We've got to set up a demand side economic system rather than a supply side economic system where they foist all of their products onto us, 95% of which we don't even need. We've got to respond to the needs of our people and have an economic system that responds to the needs of our people. We've got to get these people out of business.
Well, let me bring in elder statesman of the show, Jazz Shaw. Jazz, is there any questions that you have based off of that, or anything you wanted to add?
Going to do my best here, Luis. I've Danny, if I can call you Danny.
Yeah, sure.
Over the years, I've had to investigate and write a number of articles on things totally unrelated to our mutual interest here of UAP and all that. So I'm very familiar with your work. I've written about it in the past. I've researched you, and you deserve kudos for all the work you've done and the reputation you've established. I would just ask you on this subject that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
I believe you and I would both agree that the United States government, and this applies to virtually every government in the world, lies all the time. We all know that. We all know. Sometimes they lie for maybe you don't agree with it, but kind of justifiable reasons.
Well, give me an example. Like what? What is a good thing for lying to the American people?
Oh, any time they put out information that protects, sources and methods, something that will stop people working for us and our friends from getting killed. There have been lies like that.
You're talking about like when we invade the Middle Eastern oil fields,
I'm sorry.
That's what we're talking about.
Michael, Luis, if I can't say one sentence without this turning into a debate when I'm trying to agree with him, and I get yelled at.
No, I don't mean to yell at you, Jazz.
You were yelling. I mean, the government.
I'm just asking for a good example of them lying to us that you think is justified.
Yeah, they tell a lot of really bad lies. Maybe I should have started with that one. We could talk about the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. We could talk about giving our soldiers hallucinogenic drugs without telling them, using them as guinea pigs. Those are bad things they lie about. They lied. You worked on the Pentagon Papers. They lied their butts off about Vietnam. And my brother was of draft age when that was happening. I was not. I didn't get into the military until after that. But they lie about terrible things. But they let's not use the word lie. They fail to disclose a lot
But
of
that's different. You
information.
said lying. You said the good
Well,
lies that they tell
Isn't
us.
that a lie of omission?
It is.
No,
Go ahead.
there's
Let's let Jazz finish.
there's
Let
a
Jazz
technical
finish.
difference.
No,
There's a
don't
technical
let
difference.
Jazz finish. No, don't let
No.
Jazz finish. Go ahead. I'm
No.
done. Go ahead. No, I had a good question that I really wanted him to
Please
answer.
do.
I
Please do.
apologize.
Yeah,
I
ask the
apologize.
question.
He keeps jumping in and barking down my throat
no.
when I'm trying to be.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean,
I
Jazz, I wouldn't say he's
apologize.
barking down your throat. I mean, he's just.
Let's take a
apologize.
step back.
He's providing a good,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, but
All right.
did I
back
say
and
a
forth.
word the whole time he was speaking? Can I finish? Like
I
2 seconds?
apologize.
Yeah, go for it. Ask the question.
No, I
Jazz.
apologize. I do. I
So the
apologize.
government does lie at times or make lies of omission, since we have to be very careful when speaking with an attorney. And sometimes they do tell you things and you don't even know if you can trust that. When we get into the topic we're talking about right now, how much information do you think the government can supply that people should trust if we're talking about a subject of a very, very advanced technology? There's two theories. Well, there's a bunch of theories, but in two general categories. We're seeing stuff we don't understand. There's really weird stuff going on that we don't have really great explanations for when it comes to UAP. And some people think, wow, it's all a plot. It's all the government. You know, it's their stuff. And other people are like, no, we don't have anything like that. You know, that's got to be extraterrestrials. I happen to think the truth might involve some of each. But how true can the government be on a subject like that before you stop and go, oh, I'm putting the line in the, line of chalk on the sidewalk here in front of you. You have to tell us everything you know, even if it endangers us with our adversaries. Do you think there's a line, or do you just think there's nothing that everybody shouldn't know?
No,
And national security is not even a consideration. That's my question for you, Dan.
Okay, no, that's a good question. What you have to try to do is you have to understand what the motive is behind what they're doing, and to attribute to them this kind of good faith idea. Oh, they don't want to tell us something for 75 years because they haven't been able to figure it out. That's just total bullshit. They've been having 75 years. They've captured the bodies. They've had live ETs. They've interrogated them. I've seen the details of the interrogations. And then they turn around. It's not a matter of just omission. They flat out lie to us. And they say, "Oh no, there is no such thing. We haven't recovered any of the craft. We haven't recovered any of these people. We don't know anything about who these people are, etc." While they're engaged in invading Southeast Asia and lying like mad to us in all the Pentagon papers, invading and occupying the Middle Eastern oil fields and lying like mad and saying, "Oh, they had weapons of mass destruction." They're just one fat lie after another. And so the question is, why are they doing that? And the reason is they're doing it because they're serving the interests of these major corporations and not the interests of the people. These are not a good faith motive behind their lying. And I'm not talking about just omissions. I'm talking about active lying, where they destroy, the reputation of a two-star military officer who's simply trying to report the fact that, oh, a UFO has come over our missile site, our Minuteman missile site, and has turned off all of our missiles. And so what do? They order him to go get a psychiatric examination and try to ruin his whole career. That's more than just omissions. They're engaged in a malicious, malignant lying campaign to protect the interests of the major corporations that they're working for. It's not good faith. All this whole line of crap. There's this whole, let's protect our people who are helping us in the field. That's just such a crock of shit. I've dealt with these people for 50 years. All they do is they throw out some puffball in front of people and they naively swallow it. Like, oh, well, we have to protect our sources. We're spying on them. We're in the middle of their country spying on them so that we can get access to their resources. And, oh, you have to be extremely careful not to let anybody find out about the fact that we're spying on them to get their resources. They have not been successful in enlisting me in that campaign.
If I can ask, what's the obligation from the other side of the debate specifically? And by the way, you and I both agree they've
I think we
lied
do,
about a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things that they've lied about. But if somebody comes back from the other side and says, and there's a whole laundry list of these things, you named a few of them, because they have the bodies, because they have the ships, because they've been hiding the alien bodies, they've been doing all this. what's the obligation of the other side to make sure that the public is brought along by saying, oh, and here's the photos, here's the DNA, here's a piece of the ship. You're talking about a lot of things that may in fact turn out to be true, but I'm sorry, and I've been researching this a long time, you can't produce a valid image of an alien body for me. You can't produce something that's indisputably a piece of alien technology that we can't reproduce. I've seen things in the sky that I think are impossible for any human being to have made just in the last 8 months, but until I get a piece of it and I can go down to the lab and go, well, what the hell's this? I haven't seen the what the hell's this, and most people haven't. So is there not a danger if we overreach when we're saying what they lied about, when they come back and go, oh, really? That's incredible. Where are these bodies, Danny? And you can't produce them? I mean, does that endanger the credibility of the argument when you can't produce that?
No.
I mean, shouldn't we stick to what we can really nail down?
No, because that's part of their bullshit lying. Oh, look if we've been successful in holding all this information away from you, you can't accuse us of doing that unless you can prove indisputably. That's like say, unless you have copies of the Watergate Oval Office tapes, we're going to let the Richard Nixon get away with being the blatant criminal that he was. You don't have to be able to prove beyond any shadow of any reasonable doubt whatsoever about what it is they're doing. I've sat and talked to a guy who was a major officer inside Project Blue Book on his deathbed, talking to me in detail, giving me the names of his commanding officers, the dates he went. He was taken to Area 51 to S4. He sat right there. They saw the extraterrestrial being. His superior went there. He sat there going through the cards of the notes that were taken from the interview of the ET, and he detailed to me what they said and everything. And I'm saying to you, I could put a fucking person in prison for the rest of their life based on that kind of evidence. And you have to sit around and say, well, I'm not going to believe any of that unless I personally stick my hand in the wound in his side. All I'm saying is that there are standards of evidence that we have that would convince any objective jury of the facts that we're asserting here. And so
a lot of people have gone to prison for life, by the way, who turned out to be exonerated later by DNA evidence. But I'm just saying, this is extraordinary stuff, though. It goes back to the whole extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You can show me somebody that was murdered, and I can come up with a believable case. You proved that the government could lie about going to war, and later on, evidence emerged. I think we're in an area where if we want to bring a lot of the public along for something like the big phone home, and like more belief in saying, the government's not being straight with us, we need more accountability. I'm just on the side of the fence, and I was curious on your feeling that playing the cards that we actually have in our hands makes it a stronger case, and there are people in Congress in both parties who are going, wow, we've seen some weird stuff in these briefings. We want more hearings, things like that. If we go from first gear and kind of easing the clutch and immediately jump all the way to alien bodies, why don't you show us? It just seems to me like there's a segment of the public we could use to bring along that would need to be eased into the conversation a little more than, wow, for 50 years, or 20 years for younger people, I saw the alien autopsy film on Fox, and it turned out to be crap. Yeah. I saw Skinny Bob, and it turned out to be crap. And it's like I've been tired of being fooled. And the fact is, there's a lot of hoaxers. Before you jump in, Danny, a lot of stuff that gets put out there, and I know you must have done this. There's a lot of people who just like to tell stories, and they throw videos up there, and they use apps and stick UFOs in them, and people get fooled enough times. They look at that and they go, oh, this is more bullshit. I was just asking if there wasn't a case to be made to maybe we should ease into this a little more with the stuff we're really rock solid.
All I'm saying is that this has been going on for 75 years. So that this slow walking, this whole thing, they're not slow walking this. They're hiding it, and they're lying like mad. The only reason there's been any recent concessions about this because Lou Elizondo happens to have walked out of the Pentagon with the videos and put them on the front page of the New York Times. Otherwise they'd still be lying and they'd still be bullshitting us, and they'd be coming up with new excuses for everything. They've been covering this stuff. They've had these things flying all around our aircraft carriers and stuff since 2004, absolute minimum. They've got pilots taking photographs of these things out the window of their cockpits with their own private cameras. So I'm saying that this conscious program of concealing this information isn't because they've been trying to figure out how to slow walk this, to sort of feather this into the culture at all. That isn't what's going on. It's just a different reality than that. What they're doing is they're hiding it, and they're punishing people.
Thank you for taking my questions. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your insight.
And I would like to contribute into that a little bit if I can, if you guys don't mind. Even prior to Project Blue Book, which, by the way, Project Blue Book's entire modus operandi wasn't to prove to the American people or the world, quite frankly, what the nature of these flying discs were.
For a second, I'll have the headphones on.
Very good. And the origin of these craft, their mission was to debunk every single sighting that they had. And that was J. Allen Hynek's biggest regret, that Project Blue Book was not initiated to show the people a transparent explanation to the nature of these flying discs. They were meant to debunk and show a very prosaic explanation. And then it wasn't even just Project Blue Book. Prior to the precursor to Project Blue Book was Project Sign. The precursor to Project Sign was Project Grudge. This has been strategically orchestrated over decades on how to deceive the American public and the world as to the nature of this phenomenon. And it's multi-generational. So I just wanted to add that in. So that's enough testament in and of itself of the agenda of the intelligence community and the Defense Department as to what they want the people to know and what they want the general perception to be. Every operation that they've carried out to educate and inform the public has been blatant counter-psyops operations. Counterintelligence operations.
And I'd just like to jump here and say this, that what we're attempting to do at the Making Contact campus on this virtual platform is take this discussion from what it's been, and this is more of the same discussion about trying to, prove that there are ETs.
Right.
We know they're here now. The Pentagon has admitted it.
But hold on, wait, Mark. I'm sorry, I had to push back just a little bit.
Okay.
The Pentagon has admitted that these objects are in the sky. They're real. They're tangible. There is a there. But and here's my thing: is we've just been told, not even so much by people in the community, but by these figures that in some cases some of us are representing legally, that you've got to be careful in this field when people tell you they know exactly what it is. This is exactly what it is. Okay, I just I just want to clear that up.
I want to be clear.
Because the Pentagon never said extraterrestrials, so I have to make that clear.
But they have admitted that they're not their vehicles.
Yes, that is 100% for sure.
And that, Lou Elizondo himself has come on and publicly stated he doesn't believe they're Russian or Chinese. So, where does that leave us?
But we just talked about the government lying and the government's propensity to lie, and for them to say they're not ours, how do we trust that? Like, how can we trust that?
No, that's good, Michael. That's good. Yeah. That's exactly right. I think that's true. And so one of the things that we need to do is we need to examine that, because that could be a very clear psyops operation. Say, well, they're not ours, but a significant number of them could be, But when you have the kind of evidence that we have, for example, about Roswell and that particular crash, and that those particular materials and those particular bodies, et cetera, that we're not talking about something that's ours.
But again, but I could push back on that and bring up Project Mogul, and I'd love to hear what you think about Project Mogul and why that isn't what actually happened in Roswell, because that's something we should definitely discuss.
Sure.
But I'd actually quickly like to talk to you guys about this idea of consciousness and the conscious connection with UAP. One of the things that you brought up, Danny, is that we have huge problems with the government lying. We have huge problems with climate change. We have huge problems with income inequality. We've got this, this extraordinary agenda of billionaires to consolidate resources and power. And then we've got the government lying to us. These are very real, very here problems. My question to you guys is, relating this to a conscious connection with extraterrestrials, do you think that there can be misconstrued to think that, oh, we've given up on solving these problems, so we're just going to look to ET. Like,
yes,
what do you say to that?
Those are two great questions, Michael. Let me take the first part first. The Project Mogul explanation for Roswell. That what happened there is that when I back in 1994, 95, I was representing Dr. John Mack at Harvard, and I went a couple of years later. I was at the International UFO Congress, just giving an update on what that whole process had all been about. And a young fellow came up out of the audience to talk to me afterwards and said that, look, he thinks that he has located the photographer for the Roswell Daily Reporter that came and was ordered out of his bed at 2 o'clock in the morning by General Ramey to come over to the base to take the picture of the weather balloon on the floor that they said was all part of Project Mogul, right?
Okay.
The fact is that I could see that General Ramey, when he was kneeling on the floor in front of all this weather balloon debris, had a telegram in his hand. And this fellow, when he said, look, I think I have found and this is years later, like the year 1996 or 97 or so, he said, I think I found the photographer that took those photographs. I said, great, look, go and find out if that's the guy. And if it is, see if by any chance he has the negatives of those particular photographs, so that we could get a hold of the negatives and we can digitize them and have them blown up and see if we can read that telegram. And we did it. We did that. And we subjected it to computer analysis of what could be seen of the thing. And it specifically says, take the disc to right field and bring the victims of the crash. Okay, that's not Project Mogul. That is something very specific. Not in 100 years did they think we were ever going to be able to read the cable that he had in his hand. So what I'm saying is that those kind of pieces of evidence, when you do trials, for 50 years, and you know what kind of evidence you have to have in order to be persuasive, those are the kind of things that I look for. Those are the kind of pieces of evidence that you put them into evidence, and the jury will jump right up out of their seat and say, "Okay, that's it, I got it." So that's that one. In the second part of your question, tell me again.
Was in relationship to the conscious connection with ET and how we have so many significant problems here on Earth, and are we not throwing our hands up in the air if we say the aliens will fix it?
Yeah, it's a real issue. In fact, Mark and I had that discussion the other day, saying that look, that people saying, oh, look, we don't trust our government. We don't trust the corporations. We don't trust anybody in positions of authority. Look what's happening. Our planet's burning down around our ears. We don't have time anymore. If they come forward and they say, oh, let us provide some technology for you, and it will stop global climate change for you. Okay. And then we go, oh, great. Thank you. That was really nice of you. You're such good people. They start becoming ingratiated into our culture, and we end up becoming a colony. Because we become dependent upon their intervention on things. I think that what we need to do is we need to bear down. I've looked at it this way: is look, we need, in order to merit any kind of egalitarian relationship with an extraterrestrial civilization that may be tens of thousands of years, millions of years in advance of us, we have to be able to demonstrate that we can get our own house in order. We can't be put into this helpless position to say, we're a washout, we're a loss. We've been so stupid to let these people get in control of our planet. We've lost control of our planet. Here, come, please help us. That helping hand will be in your pocket for the rest of your life. I'm talking about tens of thousands of years into the future if we're not careful here. So I use this to mobilize us to say, look, if we're going to merit respect from this extraterrestrial civilization, we have to double and triple our efforts to solve our own problem here. And it isn't that we don't have the means of doing this. We have technologies that are available now. We know how to deploy these. We know how much money it would cost. I'm dealing with drafting the California Green New Deal. I have to meet regularly with the members of the Senate in the state of California in the Assembly. And they start saying to me, well, we can't really go that far. We've got to placate some of these businesses. We got to go at this very slowly. And then you look and you say, oh, by the way, you're getting campaign contributions from those very oil companies. We know how to do this. We can solve these problems now. What we have to do is do the hard work of educating our people, mobilizing our people, helping to get them organized in a structured way. We need to draft and put in front of them concrete programs, what they cost, how you do it. Here's the legislation. Here's the exercise of constitutional power on the part of the state to move into commanding certain kinds of conduct. We're going to be outlawing not fossil fuel burning cars in the state of California by 2026. We've got to do that. We've got to just ban them. Now, on the other hand, if we're going to do that, we have to have government subsidies to people to purchase electric cars. And we also have to build out a system of electric charging stations throughout the state so they can drive electric cars. These are concrete things that we can do. Now, Greta Thunberg, as you know, said, as long as you elected leaders are only doing what you find to be politically feasible, rather than what you know has to be done, there'll be no hope for our generation. That's what she said. My job, our job of being older people than her generation, is to show that we can do this. Every great game is won in the last 2 minutes. That's just the way it is. We've got to show that we can put on the 2-minute drill here and dig down and be able to throw passes farther than we have for the whole rest of the game, run faster than we have for the whole rest of the game, catch passes that we missed early in the game. This is the final hour. We are in the final 2 minutes of this game, and we've got to step up and do our 2-minute drill, our generation. So we've got to do that now and not reach out and say, oh, please, extraterrestrial civilization, come and save us. So I agree with you.
Absolutely.
If I could, I just got flagged offline.
Yeah.
Somebody that just contacted my wife who came by and said, after that conversation with Danny, you really deserve a shot. But that's a reminder for everybody. Please support the channel. Please support the Big Phono too. Anybody who wants to jump in and contribute, those of us who have to wade through all this crap, hey, I'm there for you.
Thank you, Jazz. And I would also like to throw my hat in the ring here regarding Michael's question with what I will call cosmic codependency, because we lead a team that goes out and organizes expeditions to make contact with extraterrestrials. And I just want to give you guys an introduction, I guess, into our mindset when we're going out there and doing this. We're not going out there with our hands open in some ritualistic, religious, dogmatic kind of way, asking, please, extraterrestrials, angels from the sky, please help us here with our earthly problems because we don't know how to clean up our own messes. That's absolutely not the case. We're not going out there to empower them. We're going out there to empower ourselves and to show our team and our entire species that we can take responsibility for a greater reality that's actually here and that's already around us. And I think that going out and making contact directly with them is just showing us what's possible. If there's civilizations out there that somehow figured out their own differences and they raised their vibratory state of consciousness to the point where they're operating from within the unified singular field of awareness, where they realize that all life is precious regardless what form it takes, we're going to get along. We're going to get past all of our opposition and our division and our discrepancies with one another. We're going to figure out how to address our problems, and we're going to leave this planet. If they can do it, why can't we do it? Because all it comes down to is I love the quote, Albert Einstein, no problem can be solved within the same state of consciousness that created it. And that's exactly right. And that's exactly what we're seeing. All the lower manifestations on our planet, all the poverty, division, opposition, famine, greed, war, all of these divisive and terrible and downright evil behaviors are the direct result of a self-centered and egotistical obsession with ourselves that's in the essence of humanism. Like what Danny said earlier, we think we're at the top of this totem pole of creation, that we're the pinnacle of all existence in the cosmos, and that's not the case at all. So I went kind of in two different angles at the same time with this, but all I'm trying to say in essence is that we're not reaching out to we're not reaching out to extraterrestrials expecting something from them. We're reaching out to extraterrestrials to expand our own awareness, and within expanding our own awareness, that's where we're going to solve our problems. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not we make contact or not. It's like just that activity and participating and the idea of it actually is just going to expand your awareness, and from that heightened and expanded state of consciousness, then we can start tackling problems that haven't been addressed before in manners that they haven't been that have not been used yet.
Right. And I think the biggest challenge for folks who are trying to follow this conversation, specifically when it comes to making contact with aliens and the connection with consciousness, is that how do you guard yourself against becoming the cult, right? This cultist behavior that recruits people in order to achieve this desired result. Because from what you're saying, these conscious paradigms or these protocols are needed in order to, bring this forward. And we've heard that before, and it's come from some very dangerous places. How do you guys guard yourselves against that?
Well, Mark, you want to touch on that? Because Mark has more direct experience with close encounters than myself or anyone on the team. So I think, Mark, if you want to jump on that question, I think that's all you.
Well, I think it's based on having a transparent and open conversation about this. And what we've done with the Making Contact campus, this virtual platform, is to allow people from around the world to participate in this discussion and to learn about ways in which they can individually make contact. They're not having to consult a guru or some leader. I'm not a leader of this. Danny is just simply, a teacher. I see myself as a teacher to help people make their own choices, own educated choices. If they want to make contact, they can do it. We've got these radios, these handheld two-way radios that we've discovered can be used for establishing contact. And this is one of the big things that we're promoting on the campus, that we're going to hold these classes and we're going to show the scientific method and the data and our experiments that show that something is going on here, that we can predictably and continuously establish some kind of contact. Now, exactly what is the response? What are they saying in return? That's subjective. I have my own opinions about how they're communicating back with us, but there's no question that this is a repeatable, consistent way of establishing contact, and it makes sense. So if you're a skeptic, you're not into meditating, try this radio contact protocol. This is what we call the first contact protocol. And it uses a two-way handheld radio with a special encoded message that's encoded into a sound file and broadcasts at a specific and very important frequency that we believe has been predetermined for making contact. And we had a big presentation given by Jimmy Blanchett. He's a dear friend of mine. He's a fellow contactee, and he has been guided and helped to present this new contact modality to the world so that people can practice this. And this is the gateway to a first contact experience. And I think that short circuits there being any kind of cult. Any scientist, any academic, anybody can do this in the privacy of their own home and see for themselves if they can make contact. I don't need to be there. Stephen Greer doesn't need to be there. They can do it on their own.
Yeah, and three words there that are incredibly important: transparency, experiments, and data. And I think if you deliver on those three things legitimately and honestly, transparency, experiments, and data, then you have somebody like my full support who is skeptical but is interested. My mind is open, but I'm not going to let my brains fall out, right? And this is, I think, where we need to come from. We asked this question of Avi Loeb too, is, are you looking into the potential for this to be a consciousness phenomena? He said, absolutely not, but we're going to be transparent. We're going to do the experiments. We're going to give you the data. If you guys operate the same way, I think we can get something valuable out of this regardless of the outcome. Sorry, Rather, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, there is a long tradition of exploring consciousness and meditation and, expanding awareness in the Buddhist culture. And I was kind of wondering, have you explored that? And, why might you think that, this new method of doing conscious contact might yield better results than, Buddhist practitioners have been getting over the ages?
Well, I'm not suggesting it's better. I just think it's an alternative. let's face it, our world is becoming more and more secular, and that means shying away or disavowing religious associations and identities, because many of us feel, that that's led us astray, and this has gotten us into much of the cultural and political wars that we see around the world. People believing that they have an understanding of God and God's intentions, and everybody else is a blasphemist, and that creates division and wars. I mean, we've seen this for millennia now on this planet. And for that reason, people are beginning to, and I was an atheist my entire adult life. But so, there's a growing secular community in the world that wouldn't necessarily be open to studying Buddhism, even though I've read a lot of Buddhist material, and I frankly relate to it on a spiritual level, not a religious level. But that said, there's a certain percentage of our human family that will not go to Buddhism to find the answer to extraterrestrial contact. But you give them a radio and a protocol that's very simple and easy to follow, and they can do the experiment themselves and see something happen. And it does. And I've done dozens of experiments, done recordings, videotaped myself, and so have others that have been part of this experiment that we've been doing for about 2 years. And we have concluded that there is something going on here, and that anybody can now do it. And so that's a game changer. That is a game changer. And I believe at the heart of consciousness is it is a electromagnetic phenomenon. And this UAP phenomenon, at the heart of it, is an electromagnetic phenomenon. And there's a scientific connection between the phenomenon that we're talking about and consciousness. And these radios work on an electromagnetic basis, radio waves specifically. And so wouldn't it make sense that if we, the human family, have reached some point in our evolution to become sufficiently technologically and intellectually advanced, and we are ready for contact without being completely freaked out by it, because we understand enough of the sciences that we can explain that the paranormal and the supernatural isn't, paranormal. It is just a science that we don't yet understand, and we're on the cusp of understanding it. And I think these radios are the tool that will show a connection between conscious contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence and the human being.
Wait, I'm sorry, was somebody else talking there?
It did. And Mark, I just want to carry on what you just said, because I really admire your point there, showing people that they can use a device rather than having to go into something they may not be comfortable with, like meditation or like CTS, coherent thought sequencing, or remote viewing, or these other types of conscious modalities. You can use hardware to do this. And it's not isolated to just phenomenon that you can collect, data you can collect through the radios about this phenomenon. You can bring a trimeter out with you into the field, and it will react in a very similar fashion to the radio. You can bring a lightning detector out with you out into the field, and it will react very similar to the radio. Any kind of device that operates on the electromagnetic spectrum and can detect frequencies that are outside of the physicality, they're going to react in a very similar way. And just to vouch for the technique that Mark and Jimmy developed over the last 2 years, because Mark, I think you were one of the first people to tell me about this technique. And then within 2 weeks of Mark telling us, we organized an expedition, went out to Joshua Tree. And I said, okay, immediately we're going to try this out and see what happens. And after the second night of using this radio contact modality, and we were using a pair of UV5R Pro open frequency ham radios. And just to give you a really surface level background of myself, my MOS in the military, I was a joint service fire support specialist. I was a radio operator. I called in airstrikes, and I coordinated fire missions, and I established and maintained field communication systems. Radio is my life, essentially. And when I started seeing the radios react in a way that I've never seen before on any other communication system, it really blew my mind, because I don't know how to recreate this. If I wanted to replicate this, if I wanted to hoax this, there is no way for me to do so in the way that they reacted. And as we received these very unique and cadenced and quantized transmissions through the radio that almost sound like musical melodies, we were seeing this incredible activity in the sky of just these orbs of light flying around our position and performing and maneuvers and characteristics that I can't associate or identify with being any kind of conventional aircraft. But what was really interesting, though, at Joshua Trees, on the second night of doing this, I got a little bit off track. We had this massive cylindrical transparent object appear right over our position in the sky, with two extremely bright and vibrant lights on both ends of it. And it flew over our position, turned, and it left. And it was being accompanied by two other moving orbs of light around it. And that was the second night of using the radio modality. So, and just through my own experience and the experience of the team, we've been going out and documenting these experiences. And there's definitely some kind of phenomenon associated activity with it. I just want to say that.
So where do I get this radio? I need to know where.
Amazon. I mean, I would definitely recommend an open frequency radio, like the UV5R Pro ham radios. You need to have a license for them. I don't have a license for them. I'll say that on the public record. I'm just not going to go out and get a license for it. And you can get a pair of them. I think they're like $40 each.
I'll be right back, guys. I've got to get my plug-in for my computer. It's
Thanks,
getting,
Danny.
Yeah, you got it. No problem, Danny.
Do they ask you any questions about communicating with ETs when you get your license?
Well, it's like, hey, if you guys are going to be doing off-world transmissions, here's your permit. It's $300. Well, I would like to share the experience.
I mean, I'm all for experimentation.
I get one.
For me personally, I approach this from a very analytical and intellectualized place, because even during my military experience, I was looking at this from the absolute nuts and bolts. Right. I was looking at, okay, all of these UFO sightings have to be some kind of top secret tech from some kind of defense contractor, and they're working out of military bases. And the reason why that the service members on the bases don't know about it is because they don't have XYZ security clearance. I was looking at this from a very level perspective. I was like, this makes sense, because I had a secret security clearance, and that's only surface level. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that have secret security clearances, and even top secret security clearances. They hand them out like fucking Tic Tacs in the military. I mean, that's just what it is. But just through my experiences and asking around to my chain of command, I realized there's clearances that I don't even know exist. At the time, I had no idea even exist. You can get a Q clearance above top secret. There's a cosmic Q clearance. There's all of these things that can be broken down into subdivisions, and there's different compartments of it. It is extremely complex and very multifaceted on the levels of secrecy that go into the subject. So when I first got into it, I didn't even think that they may necessarily be extraterrestrial. I was, okay, this is our military testing some kind of new era technology of some kind of alternative propulsion and energy system. And I want to get to the bottom of it, because those technologies can be used to address all of the problems that we're facing right now with climate change and poverty and you know, our global infrastructure. If these technologies are applied into those applications, it's going to radically change our civilization. And the more digging I did into this, and the deeper you get into the research and the rabbit hole of, you know, ufology, to call it that, you realize that there's more. There's this potent aspect of this field of investigation that touches deep into the noetic sciences. It touches into spirituality. It touches into consciousness. It touches into extrasensory perception. It touches into cognitive human interfacing. It touches into remote viewing. It touches into all these different things. So, anyone that's just approaching this from a very linear, materialistic, mechanical lane, I invite you to look into the materials that are out there and the materials that are available that show maybe the greater awareness of this entire subject as a whole. Like,
Tyler, where's the best place someone could go to either buy this equipment if they don't come at it from a spiritual standpoint? Where can you point them? Like, give me like a radio and maybe, you know, another tool that they could buy that and just guide them. You know, if this is possible, let's show them how.
I would definitely recommend getting a trimeter, which is it detects electromagnetic frequencies. A trimeter is good if it reacts in some kind of anomalous way when you're in an environment that has no reception, no Wi-Fi around. There's no. You do want to scan for different minerals and different deposits in the ground because different metals can make your equipment react a certain way. So if you do your due diligence and you realize there's no outside interference that has a prosaic explanation and you have these anomalies continue through the device, you know it's something interesting. A trimeter, I definitely recommend getting a trimeter, and get a pair of UV 5R Pro open frequency ham radios. You can get the pair for I think $40 to $80. I don't remember if it's $40 for the pair or they're $40 each, but they're affordable.
Yeah, they're $40 a piece, roughly.
Okay.
35 and 40. I've just posted here in the chat.
I saw that.
The URL to our community.makingcontact.com, and this is actually where our community is being established for the Citizens Diplomacy Initiative, and we have a whole section of this website dedicated to getting your radios, how to get them, how to do the protocol, how to set up the frequencies properly. It's all detailed there. And we just got this launched.
Great.
So this is where people can go to get the latest and greatest information on this first contact protocol.
Well, I just popped that in the chat. You guys should definitely check out the link, save it if you can. Okay, so we blew past our resets. I wanted to reset the room, just reintroduce everybody to who's in the chat, what we're talking about, and catch everybody up. And then I wanted to leave this last hour for some super chat questions because we have, $20, $10, $20, $100 questions here that I would just feel like a real jerk if we didn't get to. So we're going to get to that. So real quick, Michael, if you can, let's reset the room.
Do you want to play the Patreon and then I'll reset the room?
Yeah, absolutely. I can play the Patreon, then reset the room. By the way, guys, check out the Patreon. We're a public access channel supported by viewers like you. So every penny helps. And here we go. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
As you know, we are 100% community driven, no special access. So if you do support Patreon, you're still going to get the same great show here 5 days a week, 3 days on the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 2 days at the Singularity Lab. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. All you got to do is click the bell or click the subscribe button and the bell. We've also got some amazing super chats that we're about to get to. So we're going to ask all your questions. If you want to contribute more and you want to give us a super chat because you want to get your question answered by Danny or Mark or somebody here on this panel, we'll get that for you right away. We've got an amazing series of shows coming up the rest of the week, so I'll hit those for you at the end today. But for those of you just joining us, we were joined by Jazz Shaw, the world-renowned Dolphin Emperor, editor and reporter for Salem Media and The Debrief, U.S. Navy veteran, and follower of the strange and unusual. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Jazz. We also got Mark Sims. He is the co-founder of New Paradigm Institute. Mark is a spiritual scientist and Harvard Business School alumni, graduating Eastern Michigan U in 1986 with a degree in computer-aided design. We've also got Tyler. Tyler, did I say your last name right? Is it Zahradnik, right?
Thank you, Lou. Thank you.
Yeah. What did I say the first? I don't think I said it right the first time.
I think my favorite part of his last name is the Rad.
Zahradnik, co-founder of Contact Tour, a military veteran and audio engineer. And make sure you follow Tyler. And we've also got Danny Sheehan here with us today. He's a constitutional lawyer and public interest attorney, public speaker, political advocate, and educator. It's such a tremendous pleasure having you all on the show today, and we really appreciate and respect your time. So thanks again for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got the reset in. Jazz is ready to go for a second hour. Jazz, are you good for another hour?
No, not at all. No. I told you initially when I contacted you, I was good for the first hour.
Well, that's why I'm checking in with you, buddy.
No, man. I just want to take this moment because I do have to go.
Yeah.
The question, a couple of questions that we got in. I was so praying I might have gotten a second set of questions, but there's no time. I want to thank the guests that came and talked. I got my wife actually got complaints from the person who sent in, I think, $100 saying doing the shot. So we didn't miss it. Want to encourage everybody else to continue to support the channel. And that got blown past a while ago, but here's the $100 shot. Here you go.
Thank you, Chad.
And the stuff that was being talked about. Oh my God. I just pray at some point in the future, and we can't do it tonight, obviously. Yeah. Just so many unanswered questions that should have been addressed from the things that were said here tonight with some of our guests. Such a complicated topic, you know, and so many assumptions that I think get made on both sides of these debates that deserve more exploration. Maybe we can do that in the future, but I want to thank you for having me, and I want to thank our guests for coming and everybody who contributed. And please, I'm sure they're going to do it later. Support the Big Phone Home too. You'll get all the information later, and I'll be taking part in that. And, you know, let's do what we can, because this is important, and it goes beyond the stuff we're talking about here tonight, more philosophical, theoretical. We really need concrete action. And there are things that you can do, you listeners, that you don't have to go and find a dolphin to go support you. You can actually pick up a phone. You can write an email. You can send a DM. You know, you can actually make a difference. And Michael and Luis will show you how to do that. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people you're going to love to hear from supporting that. So please get on board with us.
Well, I appreciate it, Jazz. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
everything
Jazz.
you do. And we'll talk to you soon. I'm sure we'll have these guys back, and we'll have a much longer form discussion to sort of dive into these things. But yeah, we got a lot of people here and a lot of questions in the super chat. So, but we appreciate your patience, everybody. And we'll see you soon, buddy.
Thanks, Jazz.
Thank you, Jazz.
Thanks a lot, Jazz.
Okay, so all right, so
you got all those super chats. You ready?
We got all those super chats. We're ready to go. Before we get, I did have one question for Mr. Sheehan, because you're a constitutionalist. So I am curious. Is there a date? Because you're talking about the metaphor you use is the 2-minute drill. So it's like we got 2 minutes and we got to score. There are no options here.
Yep.
Is it dangerous? Because the whole point of our government, this 3-tiered government system, is the process is supposed to be slow. That's what we hear all the time, right? Because we don't want to rush anything through. We make sure these things are well thought out. I mean, I know this has been a 75-year process, but what do you think about that? Like, is it dangerous to just push these new laws through, or completely change how our foreign policy is conducted? Which, by the way, I agree with you. It's a shit show. I mean, our foreign policy is an absolute mess. It's been like that for a long, long time. But how do we implement these changes so they're swift, but they don't circumvent or undermine our Constitution? Is it possible?
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons that I've been asked to participate in this, in the drafting of the California Green New Deal, because there are dangers here of being able to run roughshod over everybody and their fundamental rights, which I do not. I think that they can be pretty safe betting on that. I'm not going to do that. You know. Right. I was the co-founder of the Harvard Civil Rights Law Review back in 1968. I've devoted my entire life to dealing with protecting the constitutional structures, especially in moments of duress. I mean, that's when the constitutional rights become most challenged. They're going on here. So that in drafting, we have a 350-page draft of the bill here in the state of California, and I've gone through it step by step to make sure that we do not transgress any people's fundamental rights. Now, that having been said, you need to understand that corporations are not, in fact, people. And I don't have the slightest compunction about stomping on any arguable rights they have. You know, it's a complete and total fabrication and construct. And they've worked for decades to try to get this declared to be a fundamental human being so that they can be entitled to these procedural protections. So we're going to be dealing with that here in the state of California. I've gone through the whole thing, and we can tell that I subject everything to what they call a strict scrutiny test. The strict scrutiny test is a 3-step procedure that's been developed down through the decades in the juridical testing of the legitimacy of government action. You know, and that we have to be sure that we have a compelling government interest. We have a clear compelling public interest in trying to stop global climate change. So that's clear. The second thing is that you have to, if you're going to do that, you have to determine whether or not it's infringing in any way on any individual rights that people have. And you have to be sure to have it be an absolute minimal infringement if there's compelling government interest. And you have to make sure that it can carry into effect the objectives that are articulated for that. And thirdly, there has to be an argument made in that it's not motivated by any kind of ulterior interest. You know, like, for example, that there are people on the global climate change debate that say, look, the global climate change isn't even real. You know, it's not being caused by any man-made activity. You know, that this is some sort of ulterior motive to sneak in socialism. You know, that you hear all of these arguments. I am taking all of those arguments into account in the crafting of the California Green New Deal. And we anticipate it serving as the model for the federal regulations that are going to start being put in here. So I've gone out of my way to take care of this very question that you asked here. And that's why we can pass legislation in the state Senate, and then in the House, the state assembly, then get the executive branch to sign off on this. And thirdly, it can be subjected to judicial review. You know, I'm going to make the argument that until such time as any kind of constitutional fault has been determined by the court, that it continue in operation. So I would oppose any kind of a temporary restraining order being imposed against the effectuation of the statute in light of the dire emergency that we're in here. You know, I mean, I remember being in a meeting with the leadership of Greenpeace. That bizarrely, I represented Chase Iron Eyes, who was the Lakota leader up at the Dakota Access Pipeline confrontation. He was the only person out of 483 people that were charged with various crimes. He was the only one charged with instigating insurrection against the state of North Dakota and against the pipeline. I defended him during that entire process, and I made sure that we protected his constitutional rights. We didn't acknowledge that there was a constitutional right to the oil companies to go building the pipeline and stuff in there. So I've spent my whole life being careful to be able to craft solutions that do not tread on people's fundamental rights. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was asked to help participate in this process, because they thought those questions would come up, and they wanted someone that was protective of rights.
Danny, I have tremendous respect for the fact that, you know, what your role is in, you know, was in the Pentagon Papers, because the U.S. government was lying about the Vietnam War to the American people, and you were a constitutional lawyer on that case. And so I just want to say, first of all, thank you for that service. That's absolutely monumental. So, you know, you have a lot of trust in this pool and coming from me. And respect. Now, I want to ask you, you know, and this may be a little bit outside the scope of this conversation, but you brought up Citizens United.
Sure.
And Citizens United is, for those of you who don't know, it allows a corporation to act as an individual and gives them the ability to donate basically as much money as they want based on their First Amendment right. It's kind of the idea. The ACLU actually stands up for Citizens United, but says that needs to change in the legislative process. Can you shed a little bit of light on that, and if you agree with that statement?
Well, no, I don't. I don't agree with that. And I've litigated for the American Civil Liberties Union. I was the chief trial counsel for the American Civil Liberties Union for 10 states. so I know what their processes are. You know, but the fact of the matter is, in Floyd Abrams and I differ on a number of these things. Who was the senior partner at the law firm, where I happen to have been the person who initiated the case that went to the United States Supreme Court to establish the right of journalists to protect their confidential news sources. So I did that in addition to the Pentagon Papers case for the New York Times. But the fact of the matter is that these corporations are not. That you have to make a distinction between certain corporations. I think that Floyd and the other people were a little sensitive about this, because they say, "Well, look at the New York Times is a corporation," you know. But they need to understand that there's a specific provision in the Bill of Rights that talks about the freedom of the press, The freedom of the press is a distinct right, separate and apart from the First Amendment right of freedom of speech. It's in the First Amendment, but the freedom of speech is one thing. The freedom of the press is another thing. So there's a unique set of corporations, of newspapers and media that are protected, especially under this thing. So I think that the general corporations that have been created to shelter the stockholders, to be able to get away with all kinds of unlawful conduct, so that they are immunized against any private personal liability on this, has created this monster. Now, given the fact that the United States Supreme Court has ruled, a majority of them have ruled by 5-4, that it is a constitutionally protected entity of a personhood. What we need to do is we need to craft litigation that is going to eventually get that set aside through the regular juridical processes, or we have to have a constitutional amendment. So I think what we need to do is mobilize the people around the country to support a constitutional amendment to set aside that particular opinion. I'm not in favor of generating lots of constitutional amendments, certainly not any constitutional convention, because the hardcore right could come rolling in and start having all kinds of constitutional amendments. But I believe that there's enough people, if we can make clear to enough people what the damages are that are being foisted upon us by the capture of the political process by these major corporations now, and see the danger that that's generating to our whole civilization, I think that we can mobilize that, and that's part of what the Romero Institute that I happen to head up. One of our agenda items is to get the Citizens United overruled, either by a judicial challenge or a constitutional amendment. So
yeah, I think the right and the left agree. The rational right and the rational left agree that Citizens United is a huge problem. Okay, sorry, my bad, Luis. Go ahead and ask the super chat.
No, it's okay. It's a good question. I mean, look, it's relevant. Yep. And I think I'm with you, Danny. I think citizens are people. Or corporations are people. It's a joke. It's the funniest. It's not funny because it's caused a bunch of damage in our political system, because all it's done is just open up the faucet to just money going straight into politics. So okay, so real quick, we've got a bunch of questions, and I know you guys have some wonderful answers, but if we can try and tighten them up so we can get as many questions in here as possible. So the first one we had was a $25 super chat from John Brusso, and anyone on the panel can answer this. And he asks, experiencers have a credibility problem. How do you see the scientific method to build credibility in the community? By the way, the Unidentified Celebrity Review, you guys are awesome. The show is wonderfully entertaining. Thank you guys for all your hard work. Thank you for the super chat. We truly appreciate it. Ooh. And look, Mark's got his radios, and we've got the link, right? We kind of touched on this. We kind of touched on this a little bit already, right? With the sort of the scientific method that you said you guys are bringing to the table. And by the way, I'm gonna throw that link again, the community making contact link, so you guys can put your suggestions in there, or ask any question that you have about making a scientific contact. Let me ask you this. What's the best way to record this data? And how do you catalog it? And I guess, how do you apply the scientific method to what you're capturing?
I'll let Tyler answer that, because he had his hand up.
Go for it.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Well, what we've been doing is, for the radios specifically, the transmissions we receive through the radio, we've been routing it into a software called Ableton. And Ableton is a digital audio workstation that allows you to input audio signals, and you can manipulate them and change the parameters of them, and you can export them as WAV files and what have you. So we've been taking the radio transmissions we've been getting, putting them into Ableton, and then we've been decoding the quantized sequences of these chirps on the the circle of fifths. And we're realizing that, and it's just our assessment here, it's like, this is just us going out on a wing and just seeing what happens. We're realizing that the cadence of the chirps to the radio directly correlate to the circle of fifths as musical notes, musical keys. So what we've been doing is we've been taking these chirps and we've been converting them into analog wave signals, and using a sine wave. It's a synthesizer. It's just a basic sine wave. It's just a tone. If you were to play it on the piano, I have my keyboard right here, and if I were to load in a sine wave, it's like the first preset signal of an audio, of like analog audio. It's just a sine wave. We play the melody that we decode through the radio onto the analog synthesizer, and then we export it as an audio file, and then we put it into another digital workstation called InnerSense, and then InnerSense takes that audio signal and it converts it into a light pattern, and then we have this lighting fixture that has 50,000 LED lumens in it, and then we broadcast the radio transmission as an audio signal into the light and then project that light out into the sky. Rather than just using 1, 2, 3 clicks on the laser pointer, we essentially upgraded our lighting vocabulary, is what we call it, because sound, light, and thought is the variables that we believe are used to make contact. So we have to figure out ways to expand our vocabulary and having a dialogue with them. And what we've noticed is that taking the signals, converting them to audio, putting it into the light, broadcasting the light into the sky, or projecting it out into the light, we instantly get reactions of activity manifesting above us. And we're recording 4K video of these orbs of light that are flying over us during our expeditions. And we've been uploading these sightings for the last 2 years on our social media platforms.
Where can people find that, your recent 4K video from this event?
This one, we just went out 2 nights ago and did it. So I actually haven't gotten around to uploading it yet. It's still right here on my SD card. But we have over, I think, 46 sightings uploaded to contacttour.net. You go to the contact initiative and click on it and scroll through and have a frenzy and watch every single video. We have one camera on our radio as it reacts out in the field. We have one camera that's scanning the sky and correlating when activity happens in the sky with the radio. And at this point, it like I said earlier, it's not a coincidence. We are recording data. We are recording audio signals coming from the radios. We're converting them into analog synthesized sounds. We're putting it into a lighting fixture, projecting those lights out into the sky, and receiving almost an instantaneous reaction for doing that. So the data is going to be videographic evidence, photographic evidence, audio signals being converted, and just documenting our experiences as thoroughly and as transparently as possible. And I think that's like our first approach into doing this. And the next step we want to take as an organization is I've been chatting with a lot of people at IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences. And the next step we're going to do is hook up members of our team to EEG scans during meditation so we can pick up brainwave activity. We're going to be putting people in isolation chambers that block all electromagnetic fields around you. So if any phenomenon still occurs on the radios during contact experiences, we absolutely know unequivocally that there's no external factors that are prosaic interfering with the activity that's happening during the protocols. So we need to start engaging with the scientific community and the people that have these tools and have these resources, where we can start collecting these data and metrics, and then present it to the public in a way that's palatable, so they can start, getting on board with this entirely new paradigm of science.
Now, there's some additional things, guys, just to answer that one question. For example, that there is a device now that's been developed. It's called a psychological stress evaluator. This is a super lie detector, and it doesn't work off your bloodstream or anything. It works off the tension in your vocal cords. It's a super sophisticated technique, and there are people who there have been references made that Jazz was referring to, a lot of the charlatans and people who make stuff up, etc. That what I've proposed is that we subject people who are making extreme claims, to a psychological stress evaluator. Record their voice, put it through the psychological stress evaluator, show where they're stressing. A professional person who knows how to run a psychological stress evaluator you can see grown men cry, when they get put on this thing, because it basically exposes not only what the basic lies are they're telling, but how the depth of a lie at any given point, or where they're prevaricating or just changing something. It's an extraordinarily new scientific device, and I've been in conversation with the people at Gaia. Because, as you know, they went through a fairly bad episode of putting people on who were just complete and total bullshitters, and they got caught right in the middle of this thing, and it damaged their brand substantially. So I said, look, if you start getting more people who come on and are making these extraordinary claims predicated upon their own alleged first-person experience, what we'll do is we'll subject them to a psychological stress evaluator, and we will be able to tell whether they're telling the truth, whether they're not, whether they're prevaricating about some particular aspect of it. And they've taken us up on that now. They've got a couple different sources that they thought were quite important, they might be prepared to put on. And I said, look, don't go putting on any of these people until they've been subjected to this. And I've got professional investigators that I've worked with for years. We can do this.
Do we have a new protocol for our show here, Luis?
Yeah, it sounds like a new protocol for the show. Can we please get a hold of this software?
A bullshit meter.
That would be amazing. So we've got $100 super chat question. Okay. I'm sorry I can't bring these up anymore because after a certain amount of time, the software doesn't allow me to pop them up, but it's from Otherworld Anthropologist, and it's from Mark. It says, hi, Matrayana on Twitter here. Question for Mark. Have you considered approaching Dzogchen, masters of Nyingmanya lineage, who are masters of mind and not new to the phenomena, as the best base group for contact with the contradictory by nature phenomenon?
I'm not familiar with them, but I'd be interested in getting information and investigating them. You know, one of the joys of being involved in this work and meeting people who know a lot of things that I don't yet know is being exposed to groups and individuals that have direct contact or have experiences that inform the nature of this phenomenon. And it's been really exciting. So I'm always open to getting suggestions of reaching out to people that may know things that I could learn from and could add to the body of work and information that we feel the human family should be aware of.
Well, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for the super chat. We also had just a $49.99 donation from NeuroStream. She put a sticker, or he or she put a super sticker in there. So thank you for that donation. That's very, very kind of you. And then we had this $69.99 donation from Jean-Francois Chalabois. Yes, Jazz. I've had a weird effing day. Have another shot on me.
I think they missed it. Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. Well, no, he definitely got the shot in. That's for sure.
Did you get Matthew Wright? I believe had a question.
Please ask Matthew Wright's question because no,
I don't have it. I think we lost
Matthew Wright. If you can, if guys, if you didn't have your question asked, just put it in caps here. And
only if you gave a super chat.
Only if you gave a super chat. And also, I'm going to put in the link. Tyler sent me a link to the experiment. What experiment is this? The Vimeo link you sent me, Tyler.
So what was that?
You sent me a Vimeo link in the private chat. What was that link for?
Vimeo link.
Or Mark. I'm sorry, Mark sent it. Excuse me. Yeah, Mark. You said here's an example of a radio experiment we did. So can you tell us a little bit about this? This link that you sent me, I included it in the chat so people could check it out.
I had mentioned earlier in the program that I have done over the last 2 years dozens of experiments where I recorded my findings in real time. And this was one I did last February 11th, I believe, that is a very compelling video showing how these radios are interacting with some intelligence in a way that appears to be breaking the laws of physics. And the title of this one is the Faraday cage test. So I bought a bunch of these special Faraday cage bags that are designed to isolate cell phones or anything from electromagnetic radiation. So that, for instance, you can put a phone in them and it's not going to receive a phone call. It can't broadcast. It can't receive anything. Mm-hmm. So I show through this video how I initiate contact and wait for a response. And when I get that response, I take the radio and I put it into 7 Mylar bags. And it still is receiving the transmissions. And I have another radio, a second radio, in which I try to communicate to the radio in the bag. You can still hear the radio going off inside the bag 7 bags. And when I put the radio right next to it and try to talk and get it to, feedback, it's totally isolated. It's not receiving any radio emanations from the transmitting radio I'm holding right next to it. Yet it is still getting the communications while it's inside the bag from some other source. And these 2 radios are on the same frequency. I've got a whole, you can see in this experiment, I've got, I think, 4 or 5 different radios on the table, all set to the same frequency. I proved that before starting the experiment. And then I broadcast on one radio my message to initiate contact. And after a few minutes, I get a response only on the radio that I sent the broadcast on to initiate contact. How is that even possible? That these 5 radios, all set to the same frequencies, are not going off at the same time, only the transmitting radio. And then I take that radio and I stuff it inside of a bag of 7 Faraday cage bags, and it's still going off. So that is one of the very compelling videos that I show. And I've got a dozen of these very impressive videos showing different phenomenon related to initiating contact. And now we've got hundreds of people, if not more, that are actually actively doing this because we've been sharing our findings and our protocol with others. And this has gone viral on the CE5 Facebook pages and elsewhere.
Okay, so we had another question for Tyler, and this was a $5 super chat. It asks, how do I reproduce your scientific experiments that prove we are not alone? From Joe. Thank you for the question, Joe.
Cool. So when let me break this down. So the first thing,
if you can, because we've only got about 13 minutes left.
I'll condense it. So for the audio, if you want to record and synthesize the transmissions that you're getting through the radio, I want you to go ahead to ableton.com, or if you already have Ableton, that's great. Download the software. You get 30-day free trial. Get it onto your computer, Mac or Windows, doesn't make a difference. Have the software. When you go out and you initiate the protocols with the radio, and Lou, did you put the link to the video of Mark explaining the protocols in the chat? Anywhere?
I did. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I put every single link he sent so far.
Cool. Go watch those videos. Mark will give you a really in-depth explanation as to how this entire protocol works. Do the protocol with your radio, and make sure you have some kind of device that can record the transmissions that you get through that radio. If or when you actually have a transmission that comes back through your radio that seems anomalous and it's performing in ways that aren't traditional as to how the mechanics of radios are supposed to be when they interact with each other, record that audio, upload it into Ableton, and then find the tempo or the BPM of how fast these chirps are. And I estimate it'll be anywhere between 160 to 172 beats per minute. Get it on time. So, I mean, I'm talking a lot of audio engineer jargon right now, so I hope people can track along with this. So pretty much just record the transmission through the radio, put it into Ableton, refer to the circle of fifths musical harmonic scale, which is like 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next in, it keeps moving in different octaves, and then assign music notes to the cadence chirps that you receive. And then you're going to have to go into, I feel like this is so complicated, me explaining this.
It sounds like you need an instructional video for this.
Right, we do.
Yeah, you have to essentially go into Ableton, and you have an option of an audio track and a MIDI track. Create a MIDI track, load on a synthesizer, and then based on the melody of notes that you decode using the circle of fifths with the radio transmission, create the melody at the same tempo, export that audio file, and then transmit that melody you just exported out of Ableton into the radio, and you'll receive different kinds of feedback and different kinds of variations and cadences and sequences. So that's one form that you can use to, experiment and interact with the phenomenon that happens through the radio. And then more directly, what our team does, we bring out high-powered low-light cameras, Sony A7 IIIs with a 90-millimeter low-light lens, and we document our experiences that we have. And I think that is a really potent form of data, having high-resolution, high-fidelity video of these orbs that appear in the sky and these different kinds of objects that fly over us during our expeditions. And that's pretty much our two main modalities right now for, 3, I guess. So the radio transmissions through the audio, the videographic and photographic evidence, and that's what we've been collecting for the last 2 years.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you answering that. That was very detailed. And like Mark said, hey, you guys have it on video. If there's a place where you guys could go actually see this process done, go check it out.
Contacttour.net. If you go to the Contact Initiative tab, you'll have 2 years worth of sightings that we've uploaded and documented. A lot of them have the radioactivity. The Joshua Tree expedition in particular, we go into more detail and we actually show you the process of what we do with the radios, and you guys can watch that and try to recreate it for yourself.
Right on. And by the way, I've got everybody's I've got the Making Contact Campus link in the description below. And then when the show's over, I'll also be adding the Contact Tour link there as well. So go check it out. Justin S says he had a $500 question, even though I definitely don't remember seeing a $500 super chat.
Hey, wait a second. When do you see the $500 before you doing this ranking here?
Well, this is a question for
Danny. I got $1 million question. Let's take my check.
There you go. You're right. Justin did have a question, and it was for you, Danny. So he wants to know. I want to know if Lou told Danny if he's seen a spacecraft in a hangar.
Well, I mean, I guess people could line up and start asking me questions about what Lou has said since I'm his lawyer. But I have to be comparatively circumspect about this. I've been in any number of meetings with Lou, of course, one-on-one, and I've been in meetings with the Inspector General. There are people with Lou, and I've had a lot of conversations. I hate it when someone says, "Oh, but I know something that I can't tell you." The fact is, I have refused flat out to be given a security clearance to perform my services for Lou. So that when we get in with the Inspector General, there are instances where they have to take Lou out of the room and leave me in the room. So they go and talk to him about something that has to do with classified stuff, and then they come back, and then I give them some information that I've gotten from other sources that they didn't even know about, some of which Lou didn't even know about. That's part of why Lou retained me, I think, to be his attorney. He knows that I know a whole lot of stuff about this. So I've sat with the Inspector General and they said, do you know if anybody has said that they have actually gotten radar covering of different kinds of UFOs? And I said, yes. He says, well, I guess if you don't know their name, there's nothing we can do about it. So I said, well, here's the guy's name. And I give him the name. Okay, well, I'll see if we can kind of contact him. I said, well, here's his telephone number. Here's his email address. And then they're going, oh, okay. And they finally end up that they're completely cornered, almost as though they've been cross-examined to actually have to do something about this. Now, so there's a lot of things that Lou has told me. He has not told me anything that was classified, since I don't have classified clearance on this stuff. That what has happened is somebody got a hold of somebody told them that Lou had told me that he had seen an alien spacecraft in a hangar at a particular place. And they confronted Lou about this on the air live somewhere. And his response, which I can tell you, he said, look, I have not told Danny that I have ever seen an entirely intact alien spacecraft in a hangar. Okay.
And then he said, leave the rest to your imagination.
That's his answer.
Right.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
Was that worth $500? Make sure you get that money, you guys.
Danny, make sure you put your Danny, make sure you put your direct deposit info in the comments down there. So people know.
there you go.
Social, please grab that
Exactly.
social as well, please.
Yeah. Please. Okay, so we did have, and anybody can answer this question. And Arturo asked, it's a good question. He feels bad for asking it, but he gave the $5 super chat, and we're going to ask it anyway. And he says, he prefaces it with, "Sorry if this is a dumb question. You shouldn't do that. Just ask any question you want. You're paying the money, especially." There is some mystery in messages in crop circles. Has anybody tried to contact them in that way? By the way, we've got 4 minutes.
Oh well, let me get this one. There is a very famous crop circle that one of the guys may know what the name of it is, etc. But it was mimicking the information that we sent out in the Voyager. We sent out the Voyager, and we had a certain kind of communications that were being emitted from the Voyager, which were transmitting information about us, that we were on the fourth planet from the sun, that we are a carbon-based being, etc. And there is a crop circle that came back that was giving the exact same data, purportedly from some other planet, that they were a silicon-based species, that they were the fifth planet from their sun, and they went right straight down the list. And so that particular crop circle was carrying a very specific message, and that you don't need to build another crop circle out in the middle of the field to try to communicate back to them. There are other ways of communicating, that they're monitoring our telephone systems, our radio signals. You can send out, you can get SETI to send out information to them. It isn't that they're not getting the information, but in that one crop circle indicated that they were not only getting messages from us, but they were responding. So there is a specific crop circle that has that data.
Danny, it was the Bolton Observatory. That's where it was. I just found it in the archives.
There it is. Yeah, that's the one.
I thought it was the Arecibo message.
It was a Stockbridge, UK, Bolton Observatory.
No, yeah,
Arecibo is the one that we sent out.
So it may have been an Arecibo message that we sent out. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I just found.
Yep. That's the one.
So it turns out that Justin, I guess, sort of said a $4.99 super chat. He says, "Because I lied, LOL. Great show as always." I think he confused $500 for $4.
Oh wow, the decimal place.
Those pesky decimal points.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, we've come to the end of the show. This has been. Honestly, there are not enough hours in the year to get the questions and the responses that we all want and I don't say deserve, but we all really want from this conversation. Danny, we've got you coming back for the big phone home too. We've got you lined up with some really great speakers, so I'm hoping to elicit a wonderful conversation for the event. So I'm happy that you guys are on board. I'm happy you guys stopped by. This is not going to be the last time, Tyler. I promise you. I swear to God. As soon as this event is over, we're gonna devote another 2 hours to really dissecting this in a scientific and also spiritual manner. Because, look, I love to say all the time that it's not one thing. Like with almost anything, it's probably a mixture of all of these things. So I think it is a little bit of spirituality. It is a little bit of the nuts and bolts. There is a military aspect to this. I think there's also a very real U.S. tech aspect to this. And there's a process that they're protecting. And Danny, I would love to pick your brain on this process that they protect and how they hide all of this information behind the protection of this process. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. I want to say thank you across the board. Everyone here has been absolutely amazing. And we've got Jazz Shaw on the show. He's our curmudgeon, but we love him to death. And sometimes he asks tough questions, and sometimes he doesn't like the answers to the questions he gets. But I promise you, tell him that I was sorry for going so easy on him. Okay.
Oh, he's probably watching this show right now and fuming.
I'm just so mad. But all right, Michael, if you like, please send everybody on their way, and we'll close out the show.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Mark Sims, if people want to find out more and they want to follow you personally, how might they do that?
Well, go to makingcontact.com and the other place is community.makingcontact.com. Those are two places to begin. If you want to know more about me personally, you can go to marksims.com, and that's where I tell my story about my career, my involvement in nanotechnology research, and my Harvard and my ballroom dancing career.
What?
Yeah, I was an amateur champion ballroom dancer. Believe it or
That's
not.
where you got that $1 million smile. Now it all makes sense.
Doesn't surprise me.
Now
I am
it all
not
makes
surprised.
Oh, hey, real quick, I want Mark to be here for the we had a poll, by the way, before the show. I put up a poll, and the poll question was, who has the best curls ever? And the options were Shirley Temple, Danny Sheehan, Troy Polamalu, and Justin Timberlake from the early 90s. And so the lowest was Troy Polamalu, the Polynesian football player. The second place was you beat out Justin Timberlake from the early 90s. Shirley Temple came in third, and Danny Sheehan, you won best curls ever.
Congratulations, Danny.
You can thank Sarah, my wife. She's the only human being on the planet that can give me a haircut.
Excellent. All right, Mark. Well, we'll see you soon, sir. It was a pleasure. We'd definitely love to have you back on a one-on-one format as well.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thank you,
been
guys.
fun. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Yep.
Terrific. Thank you, guys.
Danny Sheehan, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. If Danny, should people follow you? How can they know what you're up to?
I've got people following me all the time.
There's someone in his closet right now.
They're not usually friends. I
know radio.
Yeah, we got RomeroInstitute.org. The RomeroInstitute.org is where we're doing a lot of our California Green New Deal work. We're doing a lot of our Lakota People's Law Project work are often there. I think there's another site that's DanielPSheehan.com where they have other stuff on there. I don't know much about all that. But I know they've got something around like that. But the Romero Institute I know about. That's where people can get a hold of us.
Danny, you have a Twitter. You have a Twitter, Danny.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
I think Kelsey used to do that. I didn't even know what was on it. I'm always wondering whether I'm going to get sued for something I didn't say. So I don't know. So, but I don't. I guess there's a Twitter.
You definitely have a Twitter.
He definitely has a Twitter.
It's Danny Sheehan 45, I think, something like that.
Oh wow, that's cool.
You must have made it a few years ago.
I love that he doesn't know he has a
Danny,
Twitter.
I'm gonna help you out with your Twitter. We're gonna get your Twitter going.
Okay, all right.
I got you.
Yeah.
I don't know
get those curls trending, sir.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm supposed to Twitter or tweet or twaddle. I don't know, but I'll answer questions when people ask me.
Danny, what a pleasure, man. We really appreciate and respect the heck out of you, man. And we also thank you again for coming on the Big Phone Home. We really appreciate that. And I'm going to also pitch you on my show, the Singularity Lab. If you'd want to come back sometime and talk about some of this other stuff that we've been chatting about, I'd love it.
I'm an easy guy.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Well, thank you, Danny, and I'll also be in touch in the next couple of days just to make sure we're good on scheduling and stuff. But we'll see you soon. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Danny.
Danny. Yeah.
Tyler, if folks want to, and so we had some people actually, because you were talking about, how to do it in Ableton and then how to export it. Would you ever consider just doing that and uploading the file for people directly?
I'm actually, I'm working on the video right now because we documented the entire process that we did this weekend, and we've never done that before. So I'm in the middle of editing a video. It's going to go up on all of our social media and YouTube and our website. And we're going to walk people through the process of exactly how we did it and then the results that happened because of it.
That's great. And where can people, if they want to keep up with that, where do they go?
Contact Tour on everything, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, contacttour.net, YouTube, and we're out here for humanity. That's the mission.
All right, brother. We really appreciate your time, and I really thank you for sharing, and keep doing what you're doing. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys are being as transparent as possible. You're running the experiments and you're delivering the data. And I just appreciate that specifically, the transparency. It's key, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying our best to make sure that everything that we experience out there under the stars is portrayed exactly how it happened. Like, exactly. We want people to feel as though they were out there with us when we had these experiences. And we're going to keep doing it. And thank you guys for having me. I love the work you guys are doing. You guys are playing a crucial role, and you're very instrumental on the road of disclosure. And keep up the good work.
Hey, man, thanks, I appreciate it. And I can't wait to have you back and just have another long, wonderful conversation. And if you don't know, the link to find out all about Tyler Zahradnik, I messed it up, is right here. Tina Tamazuski, our moderator, is so quick with the links. So thank you so damn much, Tina. And we'll see you soon, Tyler, dude. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for coming by.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Peace.
Tina, have you seen her?
Have you seen her?
Tina.
Woo!
Wow, what a show. What a show.
That was intense for a hot minute.
That was a little tense early on.
We got through it.
We always do. We always do. There's nothing wrong with that. A little tension's okay, you guys.
Brother, you didn't say anything.
There's so much being said, yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I talked over Rather once or twice.
You always talking over Rather. It's all right. Rather's here to support us. He's
You're the man, Rather.
Love. All right, you guys.
He gets that 5 minutes at the beginning of the show.
He always gets 5 minutes. Yeah.
I can say my
5 minutes. Yeah.
My 2 cents.
That's fair. All right, you guys. Well, that was today's show. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share the channel. It goes a long way towards supporting the show. If you can support the show in a financial way, obviously we encourage it. We've got our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can join this funny cool little club we've created. But don't worry about it, you guys. If you can't afford the Patreon, I totally understand that. As a struggling artist, you still get the same show as everybody else. Everybody's get access to the same shows. So that's how we build the community. If you want to support the show, please do so. You're helping us create it 5 times a week between Singularity Lab and the Unidentified Celebrity Review. We're here 5 days a week, which, by the way, real quick, tomorrow Wednesday, we've got Zach Seichi and the Mad Scientist podcast. And then on Friday, we've got John Greenwald to come back and talk about the Showtime show that you missed out on. So, and John missed out on too. So we're going to go back to that, talk about it a little more, especially the Greenwald aspects of it. And yeah, so what do you got coming up on Tuesday and Thursday?
Tomorrow on the Singularity Lab, if you've ever been curious about human evolution and how our minds work and why there might be a lot more mental illness in our modern society and how our brains may have evolved along that process, this dude, Dr. Randolph Ness, wrote an incredible book about it, and it's going to be a hell of a show tomorrow. So if you haven't subscribed to the Singularity Lab, just click the link in the description below and come over there and subscribe and click the bell so you know exactly when we go live. We go live here 5 days a week, 3 times on the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and 2 times on the Singularity Lab, Tuesday and Thursday. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so now. It's going to be a heck of a show.
Rather, you got anything coming up?
Yeah, I'm investigating plasmoids and quantum interpretations, and so there's a lot there, digging in. I hope to get a video out sometime this week or early next week. So hop over and subscribe. There you go.
All right, you guys, everybody's links is down below. Again, want to say thank you to the sponsor, Blue Mountain Chronicles. They provide, they don't provide anything. They provided the microphones and the lights, not the music. That's DOS Tapes. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. The sponsor's link, if you like saltwater fishing, is also in the link below. Thank you all so damn much for coming aboard, getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. Want to let you know quick. Also, we got our graphics guy working on the calendar for tomorrow's show. We didn't get it in time. That was my fault. I didn't get the names in time to him. It's been a very busy weekend, you guys. Just finalizing all these last minute details for the big phone home. We've only got how many days, guys? 10, I think.
I think it's like 12 or 13.
Let me look. We got 11 days, 9 hours, and 49 minutes.
11 days.
11 days. Like, it's coming up faster than you realize. So yeah, we've added 2 hours to the first day to squeeze in guests. So the first day stream is going to be longer than 9 to 5. It's going to be like 9 to 7, 9 to 6 ish. So definitely check it out. You guys, again, like, subscribe, share. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Singularity Lab.
Yoinks on this super chat that just rolled in.
Chat tonight for insights on mental illness. Oh my god,
smoking hot. It's coming in hot.
Coming in hot with a $4.20 donation. Cool, guys. It's hilarious. It's funny. All right, you guys. We love you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.